Yes, we can copy some of this. Looking at PC Gamer Hardware, Hunter video, that's one Hunter video is 333 gigabytes. Copy. And insets, good. So now I've copied 330 gigabytes. I can lay in my bed, watch the copy. And when I'm finished do that, just find another 100 videos from this, looking at PC Gamer Hardware. But now I got this 3 old computers. This had 1000 gigabytes of hard drive. So I could maybe put 700 or 800 gigabytes of this kind of video there, but I'll not do right. I maybe have to do it. I not think I do it, but that's possible. I can do it because then I could wait to January to buy a new 5000 gigabytes. I could wait like 1 month. But it needs to be this kind of English video. This from my, if I lose this hard drive, breaks down, I will lose the copy. So it needs to be this English video. Yes, let's just continue. It's 12 noon and actually I should have watched the Danish news, but I do that in the evening. Let's try finish this. We need 18 more pages. Continue.
2005. MP version of No Kona. Potomac introduced April 2005. Cranford with 8 megabytes of L3 cache. Paxville DP 2.8 GHz. Introduced the 10th of October 2005. Dual-core version of Irwindale, with 4 megabytes of L2 cache, 2 megabytes per core. 2.8 GHz. 800 mount /S front side bus. Paxville MP90NM process, 2.67 3.0 GHz, introduced the 1st of November 2005. Dual-core Xeon 7000 series. MP-capable version of Paxville DP. 2 megabytes of L2 cache, 1 megabyte per core, or 4 megabytes of L2, 2 megabytes per core. 667 mount /SFSB or 800 mount /SFSB. Dempsey 65NM process. 2.67 3.73 GHz, introduced the 23rd of May 2006. Dual-core Xeon 5000 series. MP version of Pressler. 667 mount /S or 1066 mount /SFSB. 4 megabytes of L2 cache, 2 megabytes per core. LGA 771, socket J. Tulsa 65NM process, 2.5 3.4 GHz, introduced the 29th of August 2006. Dual-core Xeon 7100 series. Improved version of Paxville MP. 667 mount /S or 800 mount /SFSB. 64-bit processors, Intel 64-core microarchitecture. Xeon 64-bit core microarchitecture. Woodcrest 65nm process technology server and workstation CPU, SMP support for dual CPU system. Introduced the 26th of June, 2006. Intel VTX, multiple OS support. EIST, enhanced Intel speed step technology, in 5140, 5148 LV, 5150, 5160. Execute disable bit. Text, enhanced security hardware extensions. SSSE3 SIMD instructions. IAMT2, Intel Active Management Technology, remotely manage computers. Variants Xeon 5160, 3.00 GHz, 4 MB L2, 1333 MHz FSB, 80W. Xeon 5150, 2.66 GHz, 4 MB L2, 1333 MHz FSB, 65W. Xeon 5140, 2.33 GHz, 4 MB L2, 1333 MHz FSB, 65W. Xeon 5130, 2.00 GHz, 4 MB L2, 1333 MHz FSB, 65W. Xeon 5120, 1.86 GHz, 4 MB L2, 1066 MHz FSB, 65W. Xeon 5110, 1.60 GHz, 4 MB L2, 1066 MHz FSB, 65W. Xeon 5148 LV, 2.33 GHz, 4 MB L2, 1333 MHz FSB, 40W, low voltage edition. Clovertown 65nm process technology server and workstation CPU, SMP support for dual CPU system. Introduced the 13th of December, 2006. Quad-core. Intel VTX, multiple OS support. EIST, enhanced Intel speed step technology, in E5365, L5335. Execute disable bit. Text, enhanced security hardware extensions. SSSE3 SIMD instructions. IAMT2, Intel Active Management Technology, remotely manage computers. Variants Xeon X 5355, 2.66 GHz, 24 MB L2, 1333 MHz FSB, 105W. Xeon E 5345, 2.33 GHz, 24 MB L2, 1333 MHz FSB, 80W. Xeon E 5335, 2.00 GHz, 24 MB L2, 1333 MHz FSB, 80W. Xeon E 5320, 1.86 GHz, 24 MB L2, 1066 MHz FSB, 65W. Xeon E 5310, 1.60 GHz, 24 MB L2, 1066 MHz FSB, 65W. Xeon L 5320, 1.86 GHz, 24 MB L2, 1066 MHz FSB, 50W, low voltage edition. Intel Core 2. Conroe 65nm Process Technology Desktop CPU, SMP support restricted to 2 CPUs. 2 cores on 1 die. Introduced the 27th of July, 2006. SSSE3 SIMD instructions. 291 million transistors. 64 kilobytes of L1 cache per core, 32 plus 32 KB 8-way. Intel VTX, multiple OS support. Text, enhanced security hardware extensions. Execute disable bit. EIST, enhanced Intel SpeedStep technology. IAMT2, Intel Active Management Technology, remotely manage computers. Intel Management Engine introduced. LGA 775. Variants Core 2 Duo E6850, 3.00 GHz, 4 MB L2, 1333 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo E6800, 2.93 GHz, 4 MB L2, 1066 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo E6750, 2.67 GHz, 4 MB L2, 1333 MHz FSB, 65W. Core 2 Duo E6700, 2.67 GHz, 4 MB L2, 1066 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo E6600, 2.40 GHz, 4 MB L2, 1066 MHz FSB, 65W. Core 2 Duo E6550, 2.33 GHz, 4 MB L2, 1333 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo E6420, 2.13 GHz, 4 MB L2, 1066 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo E6400, 2.13 GHz, 2 MB L2, 1066 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo E6320, 1.86 GHz, 4 MB L2, 1066 MHz FSB, Family 6, Model 15, Stepping 6. Core 2 Duo E6300, 1.86 GHz, 2 MB L2, 1066 MHz FSB. Conroe XE65nm Process Technology Desktop Extreme Edition CPU, SMP support restricted to 2 CPUs. Introduced the 27th of July, 2006. Same features as Conroe. LGA 775. Variants Core 2 Extreme X6800, 2.93 GHz, 4 MB L2, 1066 MHz FSB. Allendale, Intel Core 2, 65nm Process Technology. Desktop CPU, SMP support restricted to 2 CPUs. 2 CPUs on 1 die. Introduced the 21st of January, 2007. SSSE3 SIMD instructions. 167 million transistors. Text, enhanced security hardware extensions. Execute disable bit. EIST, enhanced Intel SpeedStep technology. IAMT2, Intel Active Management Technology, remotely manage computers. LGA 775. Variants Core 2 Duo E4700, 2.60 GHz, 2 MB L2, 800 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo E4600, 2.40 GHz, 2 MB L2, 800 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo E4500, 2.20 GHz, 2 MB L2, 800 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo E4400, 2.00 GHz, 2 MB L2, 800 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo E4300, 1.80 GHz, 2 MB L2, 800 MHz FSB, Family 6, Model 15, Stepping 2. Merom 65nm Process Technology Mobile CPU, SMP support restricted to 2 CPUs. Introduced the 27th of July, 2006. Family 6, Model 15. Same features as Conroe. Socket M/socket P. Variants Core 2 Duo T7800, 2.60 GHz, 4 MB L2, 800 MHz FSB, Santa Rosa platform. Core 2 Duo T7700, 2.40 GHz, 4 MB L2, 800 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo T7600, 2.33 GHz, 4 MB L2, 667 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo T7500, 2.20 GHz, 4 MB L2, 800 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo T7400, 2.16 GHz, 4 MB L2, 667 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo T7300, 2.00 GHz, 4 MB L2, 800 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo T7250, 2.00 GHz, 2 MB L2, 800 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo T7200, 2.00 GHz, 4 MB L2, 667 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo T7100, 1.80 GHz, 2 MB L2, 800 MHz FSB. Core 2 Duo T5600, 1.83 GHz, 2 MB L2, 667 MHz FSB, Family 6, Model 15, Stepping 6. Core 2 Duo T5550, 1.83 GHz, 2 MB L2, 667 MHz FSB, no VT. Core 2 Duo T5500, 1.66 GHz, 2 MB L2, 667 MHz FSB, no VT. Core 2 Duo T5470, 1.60 GHz, 2 MB L2, 800 MHz FSB, no VT, Family 6, Model 15, Stepping 13. Core 2 Duo T5450, 1.66 GHz, 2 MB L2, 667 MHz FSB, no VT. Core 2 Duo T5300, 1.73 GHz, 2 MB L2, 533 MHz FSB, no VT. Core 2 Duo T5270, 1.40 GHz, 2 MB L2, 800 MHz FSB, no VT. Core 2 Duo T5250, 1.50 GHz, 2 MB L2, 667 MHz FSB, no VT. Core 2 Duo T5200, 1.60 GHz, 2 MB L2, 533 MHz FSB, no VT. Core 2 Duo L7500, 1.60 GHz, 4 megabytes L2, 800 MHz FSB, low voltage. Core 2 Duo L7000.